Before becoming a teacher, I thought that my job would just be to prepare for lessons, teach, mark learners' books, set exams, mark them, prepare learners' progress cards, and such like things, then sit and enjoy my salary every end of the month. It never occurred to me that teaching will affect my finances, lifestyle, identity, and the choices I make every day. By the way, if you're joining me for the first time, my name is Rina Kay, and welcome to Beyond the Chalkboard. Today I want to talk about some things I wish I knew before I became a teacher. And the first one is that I didn't know that as a teacher, I will be learning every day just like my students. Before I started teaching, I thought that my job would just be to pass knowledge to the learners. But I quickly realized that each new day came with a new lesson, and with each lesson came new things. For example, I had to make new notes, new research, I had to come up with new methodologies, new ways of delivering the lesson, and even new teaching and learning aids. So it dawned on me that I'll be a student forever. And while constantly learning was a pleasant surprise, the next thing caught me completely off guard. I thought that my salary would comfortably sustain me, but I quickly learned that careful financial planning is very important. I needed to plan for everyday expenses, family responsibilities, and even emergencies, like every other employee. In fact, I always imagine or still think that my first salary, the second, and even the third one, they kind of evaporated. I was over ambitious and over planned. In fact, by the second or the third week after earning, I was completely broke. It is then I started learning that as an employee waiting for monthly salary, I needed to work with a strict budget and I needed financial discipline. Now, these lessons became very important in life. Even though learning to manage my finances was an important lesson, there was another reality I was not prepared for. I did not know that my salary would often feel insufficient for my needs and goals. I thought that now that I was getting my salary every end of the month, then it would comfortably sustain my lifestyle, make me achieve my dreams, my ambitions, and my goals. In fact, I thought that talk of a trip to a good destination, I'll just do it. Unfortunately, before long, responsibilities grew and goals expanded. This experience further emphasized my lessons on financial planning. I started working with a budget, I started uh, practicing financial discipline, and with the time, I started even thinking of how to start side hustles. And my first side hustle was selling second-hand clothes. Of course, it did not do well, but it helped me to achieve a few of my goals and at least to support my budget. While finances were an eye-opening lesson, the next thing was even more surprising. I didn't know that when I become a teacher, that will be my identity. I was a teacher not only in class or in school, but even outside there. I started being called a teacher wherever I went. And wherever there was gathering and maybe people needed to take notes, that role often fell on me. And wherever there was a need maybe to pass some information to people, I was always given, or I'm always given that role. So that became my identity. Now, while teaching became part of my identity, I also discovered another lesson that being a teacher would determine how I would behave in public. The society holds the teacher in high regard. The teachers are considered to be role models, such that when you are out there in the market, along the road walking while traveling, or in a social gathering, chances of meeting your current students, former students, parents, and every other person who knows that you are a teacher are very high. This reality makes one to become conscious of their actions, their words, and overall conduct in public. I learned that being a teacher is not just a profession. It comes with a responsibility and influence that goes beyond the classroom. While being mindful of my conduct in public is a lesson I did not expect, there's also another thing that came as a surprise to me, that for a teacher, luxuries would require patience, sacrifice, and budgeting would become a survival tool. Since your money comes only at the end of the month, you realize that every shilling has to be accounted for. So all those lessons on budgeting, financial discipline and planning that I'd earlier learned on became very important, because without that then you might easily run into investing in luxuries or things you do not need. Then before long, you find yourself in a financial mess. I learned that I have to delay certain wants and to choose what is important and what is not important. When patience became an important lesson in my financial journey, I also realized that debt could become a constant temptation. You see, as a teacher, you can be tempted to begin comparing your progress, your financial success with others out there. And easily you can be tempted to start borrowing so as to sustain your class or to start living the life that you had always wanted to live. You can easily start comparing your lifestyle with those of your peers, neighbors, and people maybe who kind of earn the same salary as yours. So you can easily be tempted to look look at others who are doing better than you. Then you start thinking that the easiest thing is to start borrowing. And even if you are borrowing or loans can be very addictive. So I learned to control myself and learn to think it is and start thinking so that it's so these are some of the things we should learn. I'm grateful I've learned some lessons like each lesson has helped to shape them. So grateful. Watching and seeing and remember always that it's life. For more such lessons, please subscribe to my channel